Bibliophiles of the internet, my name's Adriana, and I cannot believe that May is already over and that it's time for me to bring you guys my May wrap up. So I managed to read 11 books this month. I want to say 8 novels, 2 manga volumes, and a novella. So let's just jump right into this. The first 3 books I read this month are all from the same trilogy, and oh my god, my life has been changed. This is my second favorite trilogy now, and that is a big deal for me to say because I only like 2 trilogies. And I've read a lot of trilogies. The trilogy that I'm talking about is the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy by Laini Taylor. First of all, to give you a summary of the first book, it's about a girl named Karu. I hope I'm saying her name right. She's a 17-year-old art student. For the most part, she is a pretty normal girl, except for the fact that she has access to a completely different world. She herself is one big question mark. She does not remember who her parents are. All she knows is that she's been raised by this quote-unquote demon named Brimstone, alongside some other creatures which we come to understand are known as chimera. Chimera are these creatures whose bodies consist of many different animal parts. All Keru knows is that she's been raised by these creatures her entire life, and that she runs errands for Brimstone, and what he wants her to do on his errands is to collect teeth. And the whole idea of this story is her uncovering the truth behind why Brimstone needs these teeth, as well as uncovering mysteries about herself. And once she does that, these 2 worlds which she has fought so hard to keep apart, the human world and the world with the chimera, collide, and it's amazing. It's an urban fantasy, and it's so creative, it's so imaginative, it's so well done. And I would just say the whole trilogy is a testament to Laini Taylor's meticulous planning. Like, it must have taken some ridiculous outlining with this trilogy, because just the way all the information lines up and when everything slots into place and you finally understand like what the title of the story means, and you finally understand how all the elements of the story work together. It's amazing. It's awe-inspiring. I loved it. I'm not going to sit here and say that this trilogy is for everyone. There are some aspects that some people may not enjoy. The writing style might not be for everybody. The fantasy edge might not be for everybody. But then again, there is no such thing as the book that is for everyone. I'm just saying that I loved it. And for the first book, Daughter of Smoke and Bone, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I'm not really going to say too much about the other 2 because obviously I don't want to spoil anything, but I will say for Days of Blood and Starlight, I loved the story so much. This one incorporates so much more of the fantasy world that is established in the first book. It's dark, it's angsty. Once again, the writing style really works well with the subject matter of the story. So I gave Days of Blood and Starlight 4.5 out of 5 stars. For Dreams of Gods and Monsters, I just have to say this has to be one of the most satisfying endings to a trilogy I've ever read in my whole entire life. And I have to say, I was kind of doubting Dreams of Gods and Monsters halfway through because there are so many new storylines that are introduced and they're all running parallel to one another. They're never intersecting and you don't really know how they relate to one another. But when those storylines collide, worlds change, lives change, everything is awesome. Just that last book, so beautifully written, so beautifully crafted. I just have so much admiration for Laini Taylor. So what I'm trying to say is that I gave Dreams of Gods and Monsters 5 out of 5 fan-flippin' friggin' tastic stars. If you want more in-depth, completely spoiler-free thoughts on these books, I will leave all 3 of my Goodreads written reviews in the description. That being said, I did read other things this month, so we're gonna move along. As you probably guessed, the 2 manga volumes that I read this month were volumes 12 and volume 13 of Attack on Titan by Hajime Isayama. At this point, I really don't have any more words, I don't have any more feelings, I don't have anything constructive to add to the conversation. Both of these volumes are complete game changers in the Attack on Titan verse, and it's ridiculous. It's so good. Like I said, I have nothing constructive, nothing critical, nothing substantial to say. I'm just a fangirl at this point, a ball of feels. Don't. And on that note, I gave volume 12 5 out of 5 stars, and I gave volume 13 4 out of 5 stars. Love Letters to the Dead by Ava Delara, seriously, I don't know. This story is about a girl named Laurel who's been going through some difficult times because she recently lost her sister. And in addition, her English teacher has given the class this assignment to write a letter to a deceased historical icon. This is an assignment that Laurel takes pretty seriously, pretty personally, and she discovers that the more she writes letters to these deceased historical icons, the more it's helping her grieve, the more it's helping her make sense of her life. I don't want to talk too much about this at all because I made an entire video review that has my thoughts on this book, link in the description. In my experience, I really did not enjoy this story that much. In a nutshell, I thought that Laurel's voice was too inconsistent. I thought there were some parts of the writing that didn't have any real meaning for me on a personal level. And lastly, I didn't necessarily think that this story needed to be in epistolary form. So if you want to hear more details about all those kinds of thoughts, like I said, I made the review, it will be in the description. In the end, I gave Love Letters to the Dead 2 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was for another read-along, and that was for the BookBusters Booktube Book Club read-along. That is a tongue twister. And so that read-along was for To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This book is about a girl named Laura Jean who writes love letters to boys that she used to have crushes on. These letters are her way of getting over them. When she wants to be done with them, she puts all of her emotions, all of her thoughts about them into a letter, and she doesn't hold back. She writes the letters, she seals them, she addresses them, and she sticks them in a hat box at the top of her closet and forgets about them. End of story. Or so she thinks, until one day her personal life gets very, very difficult, and on top of it all, somebody has mailed out the letters in the hat box. Again, I don't want to say too much about this because I did post a video review for this book. Of course, that will be linked down below, but I just have to say that I thought this was a really cute, fun, entertaining story. I thought it was really enjoyable, but in my opinion, the writing style and the narration wasn't anything memorable or special, so it was nothing really new, but it was enjoyable. So I ended up giving the book 3.5 out of 5 stars. After I got done with the books for the read-alongs, I picked up A World Without Princes by Soman Chainani, which is the second book in the School for Good and Evil series. Specifically, this book is about how either one of those characters, Agatha or Sophie, accidentally makes a wish that changes the entire fairy tale world. So instead of dividing between good and evil, suddenly this world has been divided between boys and girls. And so this time around, they have to figure out how to undo this wish, how to get back home safely, and how to save this world from ripping itself apart. As you might have guessed from the title, as you might have guessed from the synopsis, it deals a lot with redefining gender roles for a younger generation. I'm not going to say that it gets everything about those very serious issues correct. There are some things that are problematic. There are some things that are completely omitted or ignored. But I really, really commend Soman Chainani for even taking this path. It's so daring, and it talks so much about gender. Some of the characters in here are gender swapping. It's just so good. It's really interesting. By the end, I was blown away, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And when I got done with that, I read Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. And this is a book that is about a girl named Sophie who is the eldest daughter of 3. Because she is the eldest sister, she thinks she's not destined for anything great. She's not destined for any kind of adventure or for anything spectacular to come to her. So she lives a very simple life, but then her whole entire world is changed when this witch called the Witch of the Waste approaches her and turns her into a 90-year-old woman. And if she wants any chance of undoing this spell, she has to seek out Howl. He is a very nefarious, evil, wicked wizard, but she has to go to him if she wants any chance of getting her life back. And obviously, as you may imagine, what follows is a tremendous adventure that changes Sophie's life forever. The writing style is really quirky and charming, and it's just so fun and entertaining. And I would definitely say it has the same spirit as the movie, but they're definitely really different, which is good because that meant I was in for a lot of surprises when I read this book. It was just a really, really fun read, and I'm very happy that I got through it, so I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. The penultimate book that I read this month was in fact a novella, and that was Just One Night by Gail Forman. I'm just gonna say I thought it was cute, but I really was not that impressed with it. I hesitate to simplify it in this way, but basically it's kissing, sexy times, and a lot of rehashing of a story that I already read. But it was just okay for me, so I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, and I think that's me being pretty nice. finally, the last book that I read in May was Angelfall by Susan E. Like, really, it's just stop. So I read this book at Rachel from the Book Undone's behest. This book is about a girl named Penryn, and she lives in post-apocalyptic California. The world has been taken over and destroyed by angels. But everything has changed when her family encounters a group of angels as they're on the run, and Penryn's younger sister Paige is taken away. Through a turn of events, Penryn meets an angel named Rafi, and they strike up a deal to help one another, and she enlists him to help her recover her sister Paige, and it just is a survival story from there on out. I have to say that while I enjoyed this story, and while I can definitely see why so many people love it, for me I just found the writing to be a little bit lacking, and it didn't blow me away. I thought the world building, the character building, and some of the relationship dynamics, I thought they all could use a lot of improving. Basically, my biggest problem with the story was the first thing that I mentioned, the world building. I thought it was kind of non-existent. There is little to no explanation about the angelic lore in this story, about how they got to Earth, why they're there, and it's so difficult to understand the motives of the characters themselves. It's very driven by action scenes. There's something happening constantly throughout the book, but it was really difficult to concentrate on that when you really couldn't understand anything that was happening in this world, because there's no basis, there's no foundation. Don't misunderstand me. I thought it was good and I really enjoyed it, and I really do look forward to reading the second book. But for Angelfall, I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Feel free to tell me in the comments what are some of your favorite books that you read this May, or maybe what you're looking forward to reading in June. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you on the flip side of the page.